fastest way to lose energy is to keep saying yes to a life you secretly hate. That's not exhaustion, that's self-betrayal. Exhaustion isn't always physical, sometimes it's moral. It comes from knowing what you should do and choosing something else every day. That's where real fatigue begins. You've been told the solution is rest, more sleep, better habits, a vacation. And you've tried all of it. You come back feeling the same, maybe worse, because the problem isn't that you worked too hard. The problem is that you worked against yourself. Most men don't recognize self-betrayal when it's happening. It doesn't announce itself. There's no dramatic moment where you cross a line. It's quieter than that. It's the meeting you sit through knowing you should walk out. The relationship you maintain because ending it feels too hard. The project you say yes to when every part of you knows it's wrong. Each time you act against what you know is true, you create a split. One version of you that moves through the world, another version that watches, disappointed. That split costs energy, not in a way you can measure, but in a way you feel every single day. This is why you wake up tired, why rest doesn't restore you, why motivation doesn't last. Because the exhaustion isn't in your muscles. It's in the friction between who you are and who you're pretending to be. Self-betrayal starts small. You tell a lie to avoid an uncomfortable conversation. You take a job because it pays well, not because it matters. You agree to plans you don't want because saying no feels harder than showing up. These moments seem insignificant. They're not. Every time you act against your own knowing, you teach yourself that your inner voice doesn't matter. You train yourself to ignore the signal, and after enough repetitions, you stop hearing it entirely. Then you wonder why you feel numb, why nothing excites you, why every choice feels equally meaningless. It's because you've spent years overriding the one mechanism designed to keep you aligned: your intuition, your values, the quiet sense of what's right for you. You buried it under practicality, obligation, and fear of conflict. Now you're exhausted from carrying the weight of that burial. People mistake this for burnout. They think if they just work less or sleep more, the feeling will lift. It doesn't. Because burnout happens when you give too much to something that matters. This is different. This is the fatigue that comes from giving yourself to things that don't. You can work 12-hour days on something you believe in and feel alive. You can work 4 hours on something that violates who you are and feel destroyed. The difference isn't the hours, it's the alignment. When you act in accordance with your values, energy flows. When you act against them, energy drains. This isn't philosophy, it's physics. Every action requires fuel, but actions that contradict your core self require double fuel. Once to do the thing, once to suppress the part of you that knows it's wrong. That suppression is where the exhaustion lives. You're not just tired from working. You're tired from fighting yourself while working. You're tired from pretending, tired from justifying, tired from holding two conflicting truths in your mind and acting like neither one matters. This is why motivation doesn't work, because motivation tries to override the signal. It tries to pump you up to do something you don't actually want to do. It works for a few days, maybe a week. Then it fades, because underneath the temporary excitement, the misalignment remains. You're still moving in a direction that doesn't match who you are, and your body knows it. Discipline won't save you either, not the way most people use it. Discipline can force action. It can make you show up. But if you're showing up to the wrong things, discipline just makes the betrayal more efficient. You become very good at doing what you hate, very consistent at ignoring yourself. That's not strength, that's self-destruction with a routine. Real discipline isn't about forcing yourself to act. It's about acting in alignment with what you know is true. It's about keeping promises to yourself before anyone else. It's about saying no to everything that pulls you away from your center, even when saying no is uncomfortable. Most men are disciplined in the wrong direction. They're disciplined about showing up to jobs they despise, disciplined about maintaining relationships that drain them, disciplined about pursuing goals they inherited from someone else. And they wonder why discipline doesn't make them feel powerful. It's because they're using power to betray themselves more effectively. The Stoics understood something most people miss. They said the only thing you control is your own mind and actions. But they didn't mean control as force. They meant alignment. acting in accordance with your nature, making choices that match your values. That's where freedom lives, not in controlling outcomes, in controlling whether you betray yourself getting there. Marcus Aurelius had an empire, unimaginable pressure, constant demands, and he wrote that the only real burden was acting against his own principles. That's what made life unbearable. Not the workload, the moral weight of compromise. You carry that same weight. You just don't name it. You call it stress. You call it burnout. You call it exhaustion. But what you're really feeling is the accumulated cost of 1,000 small betrayals. Each time you said yes when you meant no. Each time you stayed when you should have left. Each time you acted like something didn't matter when it mattered completely. Those moments stack. They don't disappear just because you moved on. They sit in your body as tension, in your mind as noise, in your spirit as a quiet, persistent sense that something is wrong. You can't pinpoint it. You just know you're tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. The cost of continuing this pattern is higher than most people realize. It's not just that you're tired. You're becoming someone you don't recognize, someone who can't trust their own decisions, someone who doesn't know what they actually want because they've spent so long ignoring it. When you repeatedly act against yourself, you fracture your identity. You become multiple people. The one who knows the truth, the one who hides it, the one who performs for others, the one who resents performing. All of them exhausted from pretending they don't exist. This fracture is why you feel scattered, why focus feels impossible, why even simple decisions feel heavy. You're not making one decision, you're navigating between all the different versions of yourself, each with conflicting needs. That internal negotiation is exhausting, more exhausting than any external challenge. And the longer this continues, the harder it becomes to hear yourself. You've overridden your intuition so many times that it stops speaking loudly. It becomes a whisper, then a vague discomfort, then nothing. You lose access to the one compass designed to guide you. Now you're navigating by what others expect, what seems practical, what avoids conflict, none of which leads anywhere you actually want to go. This is why successful people burn out. They achieve everything they set out to do and feel empty. Because they were moving towards someone else's definition of success. They climbed the ladder, but it was against the wrong wall. Now they're at the top, exhausted, looking around, wondering why none of it matters. The way back isn't complicated, but it's not comfortable either. You have to start acting in accordance with what you know, not what you wish were true, not what would be easier, what you actually know. Deep in the part of you that doesn't lie, that means fewer promises. But the ones you make, you keep. It means fewer commitments. But the ones you accept, you honor fully. It means saying no more often, even when no creates tension, even when no disappoints people. Because disappointing others is still better than betraying yourself. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming honest. There's a difference. Selfish means acting without regard for others. Honest means acting in alignment with your values, which often includes consideration for others. But that consideration can't come at the cost of your own integrity. Because when you lose that, you lose everything. Start with the smallest choices, the ones you make every day without thinking. What you eat, how you spend your morning, who you give your time to. In each moment, ask yourself, is this aligned with who I am? Or am I doing this out of obligation, fear, or habit? When you catch yourself acting from obligation, pause. Don't necessarily change the action immediately, but acknowledge the misalignment. Notice it, because you can't change what you don't see. And you've been moving on autopilot for so long that seeing the pattern is the first step. Then gradually start changing the actions. Not all at once. That creates chaos, but one at a time. Say no to one thing you've been tolerating. Leave one situation you've been enduring. Stop one behavior that doesn't match who you are. Each time you do this, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You rebuild trust with the part of you that knows. Energy returns as a byproduct of this alignment, not because you're doing less, but because you're no longer fighting yourself while doing it. The friction disappears, the split heals. You become one person again, moving in one direction with your full self behind the action. This is where real power lives, not in forcing yourself to do more, but in aligning what you do with who you are. When that alignment exists, you can do things that would exhaust others without breaking. Because you're not carrying the extra weight of self-betrayal, you're just carrying the work itself. And work, when it's yours, is lighter than you think. Musashi fought 60 duels, never lost. People assume it was skill. It was, but it was also alignment. He fought only when it matched his path. He walked away from challenges that didn't serve him. He lived by a code that was his, not borrowed. That clarity gave him energy others didn't have. Not because he was superhuman, because he wasn't divided. You have the same option, not in duels, but in daily life. You can stop acting against yourself. You can stop saying yes to things you don't believe in. You can stop maintaining relationships that require you to be someone else. You can stop chasing goals that belong to a version of you that doesn't exist. And when you stop, something unexpected happens. The exhaustion lifts, not all at once, but gradually. Because you're no longer spending energy suppressing who you are. You're no longer burning fuel to maintain a fiction. You're just here, whole, acting from one place instead of several. People will notice. They'll say you seem different, more present, more certain. They won't understand why. They'll think you changed something external, a habit, a routine, a mindset. They won't see what actually shifted. You stop betraying yourself, and everything flows from that one change. This isn't about perfection. You'll still make mistakes, still choose wrong sometimes, still act out of fear or habit. But when you do, you'll notice faster. You'll feel the friction immediately. Because once you know what alignment feels like, misalignment becomes obvious. Your body won't let you ignore it anymore. That's the gift. Not that you'll never betray yourself again, but that you'll stop being able to tolerate it. The cost will feel too high, the discomfort too immediate. So you'll course correct faster. You'll return to center before the damage compounds. And over time, the pattern changes. You become someone who acts from truth first, not eventually, but first. That person doesn't get exhausted the way you're exhausted now. They get tired from effort, sure, but it's clean tiredness, the kind that rest actually fixes, because they're not carrying the hidden weight, the shame, the resentment, the quiet knowledge that they're living someone else's life. Your body isn't asking for rest, it's asking for honesty.